Well, hello there, neighbor. I hope you're having a great day, whatever it is, day, night, whenever. This is Saturday night, but um, I had talked to a friend, preacher friend, the other day, and he's from the Chicago area. And we got to talking about stuff, and somehow it came up about when I went to O'Hare Field, and I used to go to O'Hare Field and go soul winning, and so I got to talking to him. I told him the story, and I thought, well, heck, I'll just put it on. I'll just put it on Facebook, not Facebook Live, because I'm not able to go on there. I've been a bad boy, but it was. I thought about doing a series on how I learned to pray and how I learned to fast and how I learned, and how I learned. And this one would be how I learned that sowing and reaping is true. Um, or how I learned that whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth. Um, how I learned that the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men. How I learned that the servant of the Lord is one of the qualifications of a minister is no striker. Don't be going around hitting on people. Well, I had to learn that the hard way. But what happened was, and man, we're talking 48 years ago. Um, I went off to college. God called me to preach, and we moved up to Indiana, and so we're living in Hammond, and going to First Baptist Church. And one Sunday, Brother Howell said something about. I said, I get off the plane and I come back from traveling, and there's these Hare Krishnas in there, and them Hare Krishnas are trying to raise money. And he said, somebody needs to go up there and witness to them people. And our people need to go up there and go soul winning. So I had a buddy of mine, Philip Pope. Philip he was already out of school. He had graduated. He was on deputation. He's a missionary to Thailand, been in Bangkok all these years. And he'd been faithful over there and serving the Lord. And he's a good fella. But he was a quiet sort of a guy. And his wife, Colette, was a quiet sort of a gal. And she never did like me because we was always getting in trouble. Every time he'd hang around me, we'd get in trouble. And we got more trouble the times he hung around me than, but I mean, I just like to have a good time. Seemed like a good idea at the time, so we just did it. But we worked together at Midas, and I guess that's where I met him. But he was on deputation, and so we, he had a lot of weekends he had free, and so we'd drive from Hammond, we'd drive up to O'Hare Field. And give you a little background, Hare Krishna is an Eastern sect, a cult, I don't know what you call it. They I think they worship Krishna, the Hindu gods, and they believe in reincarnation. And since they believe in reincarnation, they don't wear any leather. They don't eat meat. They don't wear any leather. And so the guys had their head shaved. Their head was shaved all the way back, except they had a little pigtail in the back. Just a little pigtail back here, which plays into the story later. So be sure to listen. but they wore yellow saffron robes, and they Hare Krishna, Hare Lama, Krishna, all this kind of stuff. But they didn't do that at O'Hare. What they would do at O'Hare Field is they would they would stand at the end of the concourse. And of course, this is 40, 50 years ago, before 9/11 and any real security. And when people got off the planes, they would come down the concourse and come to the main terminal building. And there was two main terminal buildings that was connected by a circular building there. It had glass hallways that went from terminal to terminal, which also fit into the narrative a little later. Keep that in your mind. And so the people would get off the plane, and now the Hare Krishna would be there. But now these guys had their heads shaved except for a little pigtail in the back. And they wore saffron robes when they were in their little cult. But when they were out doing this, they were selling books and taking donations. And they would dress in normal clothes. They wouldn't wear any leather, but they would dress in normal clothes, and they wore wigs. They just have a wig pulled down where they look, if you didn't know it was a wig, you'd think it was just their natural hair. Well, Philip and I started going up there, and we started soul winning and witnessing, but we got sidetracked into these Hare Krishna guys. And what we would do, a lot of military people would come in up there, and they would go to Great Lakes. They would go to the Great Lakes Naval Base, and they go training. A lot of folks were being trained up there, and such as that. And so they were stopping these people, but they were mostly stopping sailors, men, mostly men, few women, but they were stopping sailors that were, coming to check in or coming back to Great Lakes. And so we would stand over to the side and we'd watch them, and they had these bags, they had these big bags with all these books in it, and they would stop people and they would say, hey, we're doing it, we're giving out these books and asking for donations and stuff like that, and we were doing this and doing that. And so Philip and I would go over and we would interrupt their conversation, and we'd go over and I'd say, hey man, listen, this guy's Hare Krishna. I said, this guy's wearing a wig. He don't wear no leather. Believes in reincarnation. You don't believe that stuff, do you? And the guy said, nah. And so we would break up their sale, and then we would walk off with the person they were talking to, and we'd witness to them. We had a lot of people saved up there. We talked to a lot of guys, had a lot of people saved, but to be honest, we really got to the point where we would rather break up the Hare Krishna than see them. Now, we still was seeing them saved, and we were still doing it. But, I think probably in the back of our mind, we was chuckling a little bit, how we was messing their sales up. Well, one Saturday, we got up there, and I forgot what it was, but they had girls doing it, and the girls would come and they would pin a rose on you. You come along, and they say, we're pinning roses on all the handsome men. Of course, they flock to me, you know that. But I mean, we're pinning roses on all the handsome men, and then they'd ask for a donation. So we'd break them up, and I was there one day. I was going between terminals, and these four girls, they stopped me. These four Krishna girls stopped me, and they started chanting. And they were chanting against me. I mean, we're in the middle of an airport. And at the time, O'Hare Field was the busiest airport in the country. And people, hundreds of people was walking by. And these girls are standing there going, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, and they're throwing a curse on me. Well, I just took a step back, stepped up on a step, and I started leading them. And they got mad, and then they left. Well, it just, our soul winning plan was slowly degenerating. Let me just put it that way. So one Saturday, we were up there. Philip and I were up there, and we stood off to the side, and we were watching the guys. Of course, they knew we were there, and they knew, and we'd been doing it for weeks, if not months, and they had decided they were fed up with us, and so I went over to break up a sale, and I walked up and I said, hey buddy, you know who this guy's a Hare Krishna. I said, this guy, they'd been going down. I started on my spiel where I was going to go off and witness to the guy. Well, the Hare Krishna guy, he grabs me and he turns me aside, and he said, we've had it with you. He said, we are going to get you today. And he said, we've had it with you breaking us up, and we haven't had it with you giving us problems, that we are going to get you today. Well, old boy that I talked to, he walked off, and I'm standing there, people just walking by. I mean, hundreds of people just walking by. And this guy's like, we're going to get you today. You going to get it today. But what he was doing, he was hitting me right here. Well, I don't know if he knew it or not, but my temper button is right there. And every time he hit me, my temperature would just go up a little bit more and a little bit more. And every time he hit me, and before I knew it, I hauled off and knocked that guy back across the airport. I know I shouldn't have done it, but I just hauled off and wham, I knocked him back, and he fell back, and everybody just stopped. They just like stopped, and what's going on here? And I turned to my buddy Philip, and I said, hey man, I'm sorry. And we started walking off. Well, Philip and I were walking off, and we're walking through the terminal, and we get to we walk across this glass hallway, this glass terminal, and it's a round terminal, and then there's another terminal down there. And as we're walking through the circular part, the Hare Krishna guy comes up behind us. I didn't know it. He'd come up behind us, and he come up behind us, and he grabbed me, and he tried to shove me into stairwell. There's an exit door there and a stairwell, and I am not about to go in that stairwell with this guy. He is bigger than me, first of all, and I done made him mad, secondly. And my buddy Philip, he just kept on walking. He kept on, little old mouse himself, just kept on walking down through there. And so I'm standing with my back against this door, and I'm panicking, I'm scared to death, and and people are walking by, and I'm going, sir, did you see this guy? This guy tried to put, did you, ma'am, sir, that, and he's like, come on, let's go in there. He's trying to get me to go in there. I ain't about to go in there. I don't know what he's got in that bag. Besides, like I said, he's bigger than me. And so anyway, we stood there, and finally I said, this is a Mexican standoff. I ain't getting nowhere. And so I just started walking. I started walking around I keep saying the round part of the terminal, because if you've been to O'Hare, you know where I'm talking about. And the round part of the terminal and the elevated walkway, it's a glass hallway that goes over to the next terminal. I just started walking through that, walking through there. Well, he got beside me. And he's walking beside me, and he's like, we're going to get you. You mark it down. We're going to get you. You are a dead man. We're going to get you today. And he realizes that I'm not going to fight with him. And so he turns around to leave, to go back to his buddies back there, which I guess they're going to get up a posse and come after us. And so he turns to leave, but when he turns, he kicks me. And he kicked my shin. Now, I had a button here, but I got a big button down there. And when he kicked me on the shin, that made me so mad. I turned around, and he was walking off. And he didn't know I was coming up behind him. And I ran up behind this dude, and I reached up there, and I jerked his wig off. And I turned around, man. I took off shagging too. I was running through O'Hare Field. I was running through O'Hare, moving people out of the way, running through that. I looked back. He's coming after me. Hit a little pigtail just about. He was coming after me. I was running down through Hare Field. He's gaining on me. So I threw his wig back, and he caught the wig, and he put it on. He goes, "You're dead, man. You're a dead man. We got you." he went to get his buddy, and I look over there, and old Philip, he's standing over to the side, acting like he don't know what's going on. I said, "Philip, let's get out of here." We saturated that place with our absence. We left. And we never went back to O'Hare Field. I lost my burden. But we'd made our mark in the world. So the next week, and I know, I was telling Phil, I know I shouldn't have hit the guy and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, the next week, since we weren't going to O'Hare Field, I said, "Philip, where are we going?" "Where are we going, Sowing?" And he said, "Well, let's go to this place over here off 130th Street, South Chicago, called Aultgeld Gardens." And I said, "Philip, I've heard about that place. I don't think that place sounds real safe." He said, "Well, the women go over there and people don't bother them." I said, "Well, yeah, but I just don't know if that sounds like the safest place we ought to be going." He said, "Well, are you chicken?" I said, "Well, no, I ain't chicken." He said, "Well, if the girls go over there, surely we can go over there." All right. So we got over there. Now, Aultgeld Gardens at the time was a rough place. And it looked a whole lot rougher in the rearview mirror when we was leaving. But when we turned in, they ain't but one road in. And when you get in there, I think it used to be a Pullman Standard community, where the people that worked at Pullman Standard lived. And anyway, it's a black community now. And it's a black ghetto now, when it was then. And so we pulled in, and I'm looking around. I'm thinking, "Philip, this don't look safe." And he said, "Oh, we'll be all right." And so Mr. Mousy guy there. And so, we pulled up and we parked, and we got out, and we no more got out of the car. Then this guy comes riding up on a bicycle. He said, "What your boy doing over here with us?" And he used the N word. And we said, "Well, we just out visiting from our church today." And then these other couple of fellas come walking over, and they're standing around. One guy goes, "Give me $5." And I don't have $5, and I don't want you going through my wallet. I didn't say that, but I thought it. And I started witnessing. And Philip, he's there, and he's kind of witnessing, but I don't know what he's doing, because I'm already in deeper than I want to be. I didn't want to go, but so here we are. And these big guys are standing around, and I'm witnessing to this guy. You need to trust Jesus, man. And I'd witness to this guy, and I'd witness to this guy. And I wasn't getting anywhere. And I realized that we were in deep doo-doo. And so I just said, well, it's time for us to get out of here. And so I started to leave, and I turned to leave. And when I turned to leave, one of these big old dogs, the biggest fella of them all, when I turned to leave, he grabbed my wrist, and I turned back around, and that was the last thing I remember. I still to this day don't remember him hitting me, but he hit me in the jaw, knocked me down. I came to on the ground, and I rolled over, and it was early ministry, and I didn't know how to tie a tie yet. I hadn't met old Tom Hertzler yet, and he taught me how to tie a tie, so I didn't know how to tie a tie yet. And so I rolled over, and my clip-on tie was right there, and my Bible was right there, and I picked them both up, and I looked up, and there's the car. I knew where the car was. And I didn't know it, but when this guy hit me, Philip, he jumps over there like he's going to do something. And he said that they just stopped. Now, I'm sure it wasn't Philip that scared him to death. I think the Lord said, hey, they've had enough. Because he said, as soon as you rolled over, they stopped. And he said, they parted. And I just knew where the car was, and I'm bleeding from the mouth, and I'm stumbling back to the car, and I got my clip-on tie, and I got my Bible, and I got back. Philip, he's jumping around. I remember him being in front of me, and he's looking back, like he's gonna do something. He's the one that drove, he's his car, and so we get over there and we get in, we sit down, we're sitting there, and he pulls out, and we get out. We're on the Dan Ryan, headed back toward Hammond. And he's looking over at me, he's driving, he's looking over, and I go, well, I ain't chicken, am I? I ain't smart, but I ain't chicken. But I don't want to go through that again. I do not want, and now I've looked up Aultgeld Gardens, and you can look it up. They've got it really cleaned up and everything. It's really nice nowadays. But it was rough then. But you know what I learned then? I learned that whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. I learned that, whatever, it's going to come back. I hit a guy the week before, and now I got hit the next week. And it just reaffirmed in my mind that the Bible's true. Amen. Say amen right there. But I tell you what, I lost my burden for old Hare Field, and I lost my burden for Aultgeld Gardens. But I'm telling you, the Lord's good. And and it's like anything. A lot of times bad stuff happens to us in our lives. And if you be honest, a lot of the stuff that happens to us is self-inflicted wounds. I mean, we're reaping what we sowed. And if you don't like what you're reaping, change what you're sowing. You don't have to keep doing them dumb things and making them dumb mistakes. And hopefully, I don't think I've slugged anybody since then. I ain't even slugged anybody when I was repoing. I only got hit once, and that was a lady from over in Gunnersville, but that's another story. Go to the Repo Man on Facebook or YouTube, and you'll find me and my stories over there. Well, God bless you, neighbor. Have a great day. Have a great evening. If I can help you with anything, let me know. But, a lot of times what we suffer is just because it's coming home. Chickens are coming home to roost. Say amen right there. Amen.